have selected George Karlaftis.
Big George!
There we go!
I am so beyond excited that Josh Simmons getting a crack at left tackle.
It's really hard to win the AFC Championship.
Is it?
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our amazing partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. I am hyped right now. It's a Matter Day. Matt Swanson. Matt
I thought we
Lane.
tried this.
Matt Hamilton. I can't wait. Matty Lane, how we doing?
Well, I'm mid-drink, so that was a perfect time to throw it to me. That was
You
great.
should have known. Hold on.
Great to
You
go to
should
him
know.
first while he's
Yeah, that was great. I don't know why we're Matter Day. I thought we retired Matter Days after the Chiefs season was over. I thought we went back to you being Kent Swanson, us being the superior Mats, you tagging along. I thought that's where we landed the ship. But yet, I'm happy. Listen, I'm doing great. Hamilton has been busy these last couple weeks. He's been a traveling man. He's been all over the place. He's been working. But I'm glad that Hamilton's back. I'm glad that Hammy is back on the set, so I have somebody else to talk to in the private chat and make fun of Kent, who will not read it the entire time. So we just got free reign.
Well, I'm happy to be back. I missed you guys. It was been an eventful couple of weeks, but happy to be back here with you guys to talk some Chiefs.
Best thing you ate in San Francisco?
Oh man, it's a good question. I mean, the Mexican food was unbelievable. I will say that. Yeah, had a great, had some great enchiladas. And we went to what was it called? John's Steaks and Seafood, which is like their old time famous place, and that meal was unbelievable. If you get to San Francisco, definitely go there. Definitely worth
Did you
it.
get to Santa Clara at all, or were you just in San Francisco?
I didn't. We stayed in San Francisco because like the media center was there and everything else, and we
So
didn't
your
do the
e-cartilage
opening night
is
thing
good.
and everything else. Yeah. I was away from the substation.
So I wanted to be sure.
No
Get
electromagnetic frequencies for me. So yeah, all good.
All your soft tissues intact. That's great. I'm really glad about that, buddy. I'm really happy for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you have fun at the Super Bowl? Did you have a good time?
I did. It was a great week for us. I think we had 36 guests over 4 days, which was intense, but yeah, it was a great time. And it's always a fun week. Got to see our great friend Tucker D. Franklin for a little bit. Matt Castle, our other old friend. It's a great time to like reconnect with all those people you've crossed paths with in the industry, and especially our KC folk.
Well, I think this is our first Matter Day of the offseason. If my math is correct. So that's pretty exciting times.
Notoriously not your strong suit.
And there's a lot to talk about. Not that.
Yeah. We got some gifts today from that perspective.
That's so many.
Yeah.
We had a lot of things pop up today. Shout out the content cycle for starting up in earnest. Some hypotheticals that we'll get into, but before we do that, the news of the day: Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill has been released by the team.
What?
That came across the wire here earlier, or late morning here in Kansas City. I don't think this is a overly surprising outcome here for the Miami Dolphins looking to clean house. John Eric Sullivan there leading that organization now. Anticipating, I think they're bracing for a lot of big changes there. Not the only name that was released by the Dolphins today, but certainly the biggest one of note, I think, for the Chiefs and for Chiefs fans. And the thing that kind of took things by storm was the former Chiefs great Tyreek Hill is now available and in the open market. We'll start with you, Hamilton. Not super surprised by this, right? I would anticipate you weren't overly surprised by this. Before we get into should the Chiefs do it, he's coming off a significant injury. Do you think any team Do you think any team really can take this risk right now with the Tyreek Hill, or how big of a risk do you think that it is if someone's investing in Tyreek Hill this year?
Yeah, and that's going to be the key is how much are you investing? I think that's going to be interesting to see how much he's pushing for, kind of where his mind is too. If he wants to try to get as much money as he can out of this, or if he wants to go somewhere where he has a chance to win something again. But I do think, yeah, you look at it coming off a significant injury on the wrong side of 30, showed a few signs of, maybe slowing down a little bit before the injury too. And you think about his play style specifically, and I think that's something the Chiefs evaluated the first time around when they decided to trade him was, given his play style, his size, all of that, like when it goes, like when that speed starts to go, it's going to be really hard for him to be, a dominant receiver in this league, because of the way that he plays, because of his size, because of all of that. It's his shelf life, theoretically, again, assuming he ages like a normal person, which everybody ages differently, but if he ages like a normal wide receiver, his shelf life is probably a little bit shorter than the average receiver. So that's all stuff you have to weigh. But again, if you're getting him on a deal where he's just trying to go somewhere where he can win a ring and he's willing to take less than you would think a Tyreek Hill caliber receiver can command, then he's definitely still interesting to me. Again, all that stuff considered, if you can get even 80 to 90% Tyreek Hill of what he was in his prime, that's still a pretty damn productive player and somebody that I would be willing to bring in if the price is right.
Do we want like the real take, or do we want the intrusive thought here?
Real take, then intrusive thought?
The guy's leg was like barely hanging on by a thread. He is already starting to lose a step. Still a good receiver, but Tyreek Hill's leg was like completely wrecked. And you don't know what you're going to you don't know any receiver, like Hamilton was saying, of like that archetype when he loses that trump card of speed. And Tyreek Hill had become a very good route runner, but I don't know if his game had fully been tailored to like, oh, if I don't have elite speed, it still works great. We just don't know because we haven't had to see it. So while he was already slowing down just a tick, he has this gruesome injury that you don't know how he's going to return back from that in any way, shape, or form. It might take him a full year of recovery to even be back to like football playing shape. We just don't know. I think he said recently that he still had like another surgery to come. I think I saw.
I saw Chiefs Concerns clip that, and they pulled a clip of him hanging out, I think, while he was on his Twitch. And Tyreek said, I got to have one more surgery. It hasn't been as rough as people try to make it seem. But, I mean, also, he just said he has to have one more surgery.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
and like
I did
sometimes
not
that
see that
could be
report.
cleanup stuff.
Yeah.
And that could be a cleanup thing. It could be not a big deal, but like still, that's just looming, right? Like that's looming before you can get really going. It's like, it's just, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a whole lot that you could bank on him offering to a team next year. And even if he does return to health, you just don't know what's on the other side. It's a completely unknown door for this. Unlike a lot of the other Chiefs, like, hey, let's bring back our best friends. You don't know what you're bringing back right now, right? And it's not because there's anything like wrong with the player and how he would fit. You just don't know what the players got left. So I don't know. It's just, it seems lofty to me to be overly excited about the prospect of bringing Tyreek Hill back to the Kansas City Chiefs at this stage.
Yeah, and it's again, like even on a veteran minimum type of situation, like that's the only situation where I see it. I see it being intriguing to any team that's pushing for contention right now. I will say this from the Tyreek side of it, even before any of this happened, while he was still playing like the Tyreek that we came to know and love, he really wanted to come back to Kansas City. We interviewed him 2 separate times over the last couple of years, and when we were down in Miami, he made it very clear, like he loves Kansas City, he loves Patrick Mahomes, that was something that he'd be open to, which you usually don't get guys that are fully under contract talking the way he did about the Chiefs. And then at the Super Bowl last year, a little behind the music there, like he wasn't supposed to come on our show at Super Bowl last year in New Orleans. It was the morning of, and we get a message from somebody connected to him that just said, Tyreek wants to talk today. Do you guys want to talk to him? And so he had stuff on his mind, and he came on, and he opened up about kind of the way that, remember all the controversy with the way that season ended in Miami, but then once again, it was very much, very much interested in Kansas City once again when we talked to him there. So I know from his perspective, it's absolutely something he wants. So that might mean you can get him out of that minimum type of situation coming off this injury. And if you're able to get him for that price point, then it becomes interesting because, like we said, there's a lot of mystery there. But if he's even close to the player we know he can be, there's value there.
I wanted to set the stage a little bit just to kind of ask the global perspective of Tyreek Hill. Like how many teams we think are actually going to be interested in, how many teams are going to be willing to pay him any substantial amount of money. And substantial doesn't mean, what it used to be. I think that's a huge risk, and I don't know how much money Tyreek Hill is really going to get in the open market. And that was kind of where the stage I wanted to set. But I want to hear Maddie's intrusive thought before I get to go anywhere else. What's the intrusive thought with Tyreek Hill?
The Chiefs sign him and say, wide receiver solved.
All right, let's get into it.
They bring him back. It is up. There's our Juju Smith-Schuster. We brought him back. Game over. Game, set, match. Xavier Worthy's going to learn where the sideline is. He's going to start playing through contact. He'll figure it out. Rashee Rice is not going to do anything silly off the field, as we have seen. And Tyreek Hill will come back and resume wide receiver one role, and we'll get him for nothing, and our wide receiver room will be fixed. Everybody will play better than they have lately because this is what we believe. Boom, done. Wipe the hands off. And now we can go draft all defense because our wide receiver room needs no help.
I can't lie. I have a little similar intrusive thought, and I think it is part of the. I think it is just part of what we've seen over this last few years with this team is a continual run it back mentality and bringing back people from in-house. I actually think Tyreek, and with not his medicals withstanding, but Tyreek Hill not returning would actually be a signal to me that the offseason is going to be a little bit different. That they are going to go about things a little bit different than they have historically in the past as they're trying to retool this roster. But when I look at it, the thing that kind of just perplexes me, and I think, the thing that, like, I'm just not even sure if they really can even do this. There's at least one player on the Chiefs roster that is going to command, I would imagine, a relatively significant one-year deal. Maybe for the first time in the history of this team, they really try to play with dead money and void years. But Travis Kelce's going to garner some significant money. I don't think he's going to sign for $7 million a year. I would imagine Travis Kelce's APY on his contract winds up in the top 6, 7, 8 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like top 5-ish, and he's getting $13 million APY in 2026. If the Chiefs really do stretch this thing, wiggle things around, and they've got $35 million in cap space for 2026, you might be looking at a third of your cap space for that season hitting on Travis Kelce alone, unless you're getting really creative with void years or you're getting, some kind of structure that the team has not used over the last few years. So, I mean, even if Tyreek Hill's a $7 million player, that's $20 million in cap space if you're looking at these short-term deals for Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. That's the question I keep asking myself. Is like, can this team really afford Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill on short-term deals, when there is so many other spots on this roster that they've got to address, Hamilton?
Yeah, and it's a great point when you really break it down like that and what may be available to them. That's a pretty huge percentage of the cap space they have remaining with a lot of other needs to fill. And that, I guess that really is going to be the wild card in this thing is, I think we're at a point where we're assuming Travis is coming back with the way that things have been trending. How much is he willing to sacrifice to do that? And I don't know. I could see him I wouldn't assume he is going to command like a top APY because I don't know at this stage of his career how important that is. I mean, obviously, you know, everybody's different in how they value it. So you never know really how anybody's valuing that stuff. I wouldn't knock him for wanting to get what he's worth. If this is his last crack to kind of get a paycheck out of this, but he's set up to do so much stuff with his post playing career. The money might not be super important to him over this last contract. So if he does take a friendlier deal, that does open things up more. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot this team has to figure out this offseason. There are going to be a lot of contracts that need to be restructured on this team. I think they're in that place where they have to. I don't see a way around to playing with those void years for them to make this cap situation work for this offseason, frankly.
Well, and I'll let you I'll let you cook here in a second, Maddie. But like, I don't know. The thing I keep thinking with Travis is like, I don't think he can walk into tight end U and be taking the 15th highest APY, at the tight end position when he's still probably a top 7-8 tight end in football. That's where I think it's tricky. And like the 11th highest APY for tight ends right now is $12 million for Dalton Schultz. That's what's scary. Anyways, Maddie, yeah. I'll let you cook.
I mean, just money aspect of it all aside, and like money in the cap, salary cap stuff, it's real to a degree, but mostly it's fake on how you pay it out. You can make anything work. So if they want to make it work, they're going to make it work. My bigger issue is, hey, if you bring back Tyreek Hill, whether he's good or not, like no matter how good he would be or not, you now have Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Royals you just took last year in the draft. Like that's your top 4 wide receivers presumably walking in, and like not the only one of those guys that you could try to add somebody above is going to be Jalen Royals. You can't go out like once you bring Tyreek Hill back, right? Like you kind of filled up the room with Tyreek Hill being a big enough name value that if you make that move, it kind of matters. Even if you get him on a vet minimum deal and he just says, I want to be in Kansas City and see what happens with this injury and see if I can play, that name still carries a weight in itself. You can't be like, okay, Tyreek, you're our 6th wide receiver and you got to earn your spot now. It won't work that way for him, right? Yeah. He's getting a spot if you bring him back. So like, even just by pure name weight value, if you were to add him, if the Chiefs were to add him, I kind of think that takes them out of any other significant additions to the wide receiver room. And then now what? You have an older wide receiver coming off a major injury. How long-term is that? You have Rashee Rice doing whatever he's got going on off field, on field, whatever on a contract year. Who knows how long-term that deal is? And Xavier Worthy and Jalen Royals. Royals, we haven't seen play. Worthy, we've seen play 2 years and he was injured for one of them. We didn't really see any progression to his game after his rookie year. So we don't know what we're getting there. What are your long-term? What does Tyreek Hill provide to your team beyond this year? There's not really anything he's adding long-term. So it's just, it feels like a significant step backwards when some of the coaching hires feel like they're trying to set themselves up to move forward.
And I don't think that they can bank on him. That's the other thing. Like, I think if the game plan winds up being we're going to bank on Tyreek Hill and that's the wide receiver edition, that terrifies me from an outlook. Like, I think that's the idea of let's just see what happens. I know Tyreek's got one more injury left or one more surgery left. Let's just sign him and see what happens. Or let's wait until late March to see what happens with Tyreek Hill before we I don't think you can build a plan around Tyreek Hill. And if you can't build a plan around Tyreek Hill, can you build your receiver room with him in it at all? Like, I think that's one of the big questions. And like, to your point, he's not going to come in here and be wide receiver 5, Maddie. So you have to, I think the Chiefs aren't in a position where they can even make some kind of, I don't think they're in a position to wait. I don't think they can just sit there and wait to see what happens with how Tyreek Hill's knee responds a month from now. And then that's the plan. So like the intrusive thought is absolutely that's just what they're going to do. But man, if they do, like I would be surprised at that process if they really go to those lengths, especially knowing he says he's got another surgery he's got to do too.
Yeah, and I think if you were at a point where you could trust Rashee Rice more, you could do that and say this is it and we can, but forget about the on-field stuff. The off-field stuff alone is the reason why you can't. Like you kind of laid out, Maddie. There's nobody in that receiver room that you can just go into next year and 100% trust right now, and that's the scary part. There's a lot of potential. There's certainly a lot of, and everything works out well. You got a lot of guys that can make some plays and be reliable, but right now, with what we saw last year, with what's going on with Rasheed Rice off the field, like there's no, you can't feel comfortable with that room. And if bringing in Tyreek does mean that they're set and they don't look to make a bigger move there, yeah, then you can't do it because the guy, you need something. And I guess that's the other part of this is who are you bringing in that is going to give you that comfort level, that reliability, and is that option out there right now? Because even if you use that ninth overall pick and spend on a wide receiver, obviously there's going to be question marks that come with relying on a rookie receiver to be that guy for you. But yeah, it's a scary situation right now with that receiver room, and Tyreek doesn't fix that part of it.
Well, do you want if you take a round one receiver, is that the right room for him too? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
and your 2027 pass catchers are presumably Noah Gray at tight end, presumably whatever rookie they sign, Xavier Worthy and Jalen Royals. Because I don't know if you're getting Tyreek Hill in a multi-year deal. Rasheed's gone, Travis is gone. I don't know. It feels very short. It feels like a short-term solution at the receiver spot. That's why it's an intrusive thought.
Yeah.
Watch.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk about some hypothetical conversations happening about a Chiefs player right after this.
Heather Luce, broker owner, KC Local Homes, and Emprise Bank has been a great partner for us. They're our partner in Possible. Debbie and I hit it off immediately, and she was one of the first bankers that I would say sat down with me and actually genuinely cared about my story and where I was coming from and what I was trying to do, not just what kind of loan do you need, how much equity do you have, and she really kind of laid out my options for me and just made the process make sense, and I felt comfortable with it. Start to talk about it and think about it, a building popped up that I wanted, that I could afford, and it was in a great area. And so they really guided me through the SBA. I used the SBA loan to acquire it and really guided me through that process and made it happen. I think that we talk about that a lot, where we wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have what we have here if we didn't have the clientele that we do. I've always functioned out of a people over profits mentality. The houses sell themselves, right? Like, I'm here to help people and facilitate the transaction for them.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us tonight on a Matter Day. As always, we
don't like it.
It's rolling through the off season, and I can't wait. We are
Everything went downhill when you started this.
I don't know about all that, but
Run it back.
I mean, I do. I mean, Hamilton did sit a few weeks out, and that probably was to just evade, the Matter Day tag altogether. But Bill Barnwell came out with an interesting article today, exploring 11 hypothetical trades. And, I think there's one that's really stuck a lot in Kansas City over the last, month or so. And honestly, I think Bill Barnwell even kind of nailed the team that people keep connecting to this player. Bill Barnwell proposes that the Chiefs trade star cornerback Trent McDuffie and their 2026 fifth-round pick to the Los Angeles Rams for the 29th pick in the 2025 NFL draft. This is our 2026 NFL draft. This is something that I think you've seen floated a lot when you're trying to look at teams and their timelines, and the Rams are on that kind of timeline where they're still, chasing the Stafford window. They have extra draft capital at their disposal. The Chiefs, trying to look at figuring out how to navigate their cap space and their future, and trying to figure out whether or not, they can afford to pay Trent McDuffie a pretty penny. The needs, the value, the opportunity kind of aligns with the Rams as far as a good dancing partner for the Chiefs to trade Trent McDuffie. Before we even get into the value of the trade, though, Hamilton, I mean, do you think the Chiefs, where they sit right now, could afford to entertain the idea of trading Trent McDuffie?
I don't personally. I think that's a player you built around. He's 25 years old. He is a top corner in this league. He is versatile as it gets. He is, by all accounts, from everything I've heard, a great teammate, a great guy to have in that locker room. It's different from some of these other situations where they've moved on from other people, that were very talented and at this stage of their career seeking a second contract. I think this is a guy you want to keep in the building, frankly. And I know they have some cap issues, which we talked there. As Maddie kind of alluded to, there are ways that they can make this happen pretty easily. As far as the cap and get all that straightened out, this is not something they need to do to be able to fit under the cap. Even though the situation looks bad right now, like they're, obviously Mahomes is not going to the season with a $78 million cap hit. That's not going to happen.
What?
So that number, yeah. So that number is not real. Yeah, I don't like this idea of trading Trent McDuffie at this stage with with what he means to this defense. I know I don't know. I feel like it's a very like Madden thing where it's like, well, let's just trade all these people, get picks, whatever. Again, I think Veach has done a tremendous job of knowing when to trade people. I mean, we saw it with Snead. That was as well executed as can be. Tyreek, as well executed as can be. I don't put McDuffie in that boat right now, being 25 years old and the type of person, the type of, what he means to this defense right now. I think this is the guy you pay, you hold on to, you find a way to get it done, and they can make it work.
I'm in such two minds of this one because I don't think trading Trent McDuffie at this point of his career is good. Like, it's not good management. Like, that's not how you should go about building the team, right? Like, that's not a move you make. Here's a young corner in his prime who's been exceptional for you. And yeah, we can quibble over how is he being best utilized based on his role that he's either wanting to play in or that you're opting to play him in, and how does that relate to the amount of money that he's going to make? I get there is some difficult conversations there, but typically you do not trade away a cornerback, which is a highly valuable position in their prime, to go chase down, just because you don't want to deal with the headache or because you want a couple extra draft picks. That said, the Chiefs are light on draft picks, and they have a lot of holes around this whole roster. And the one position group that they have kind of seemed to be able to find guys at various spots throughout the draft, it has been cornerback, specifically outside corner. They had, L'Jarius Sneed, when he played in the slot, his first couple years was good. Trent McDuffie playing in the slot was good there. So it's not that they can't find slot corners either, but very specifically, they've had a lot of success finding solid, contributing, starting cornerbacks that play on the outside because of how this defensive structure works, right? When everything else is clicking, give me a big, long, physical corner that's going to get up in someone's face, push them around a little bit, make them take a little while to get open, and dare quarterbacks to make tighter window throws. They might not be the most skilled tracking the ball in the air. They might not be the most athletic, but you have to be super confident as a quarterback and with your receiver that you're throwing to beat them. And we have seen that come to bite them occasionally in the playoffs when they go up against a quarterback and an offense on a heater. But generally speaking, it doesn't matter if they're playing day 3 picks, they're playing guys from free agency or whomever, they make it really difficult on opposing teams to throw the ball outside the numbers. So I can see the avenue where they look at the rest of their roster and say, man, we really need some good draft picks here to help fill this out. I don't know if we should be paying a boundary corner $30 million per year because we think Noah Williams is going to be just fine in that role next year. We can get Jalen Watson back for less than half of that price to go play on the boundary. And now we have the 29th pick in the draft. Plus we have our 2 outside corners. Oh, and we're going to have more money to spend in free agency. So I can see how they arrive there, even if I think you probably just keep the blue chip player when push comes to shove.
Yeah, it's the toughest question, I think. I mean, it's such a difficult question. And I just think when you're looking at this team, if the Chiefs cut Jawan Taylor and Mike Dana and Drew Tranquil, they're still $20 million over the cap. A restructure of Creed Humphrey gets them 9 back. Then you're just looking at the Mahomes deal. Whatever, a full restructure of Mahomes deal gets the Chiefs to $33 million. That's like the top end if you were to restructure Creed and Patrick Mahomes there. the cap relief, if you are looking to kind of blow some things up, the cap relief on trading Trent McDuffie is pretty substantial. You're getting $14 million back. Same with like Chris. If you move on from Chris, you're getting about $15-16 million back. I don't know how the Chiefs plan to approach this, approach the cap situation that they're in, but I mean, they're almost assuredly going to have to restructure Patrick Mahomes significantly to make all this work, to even put an offseason together. And not to mention, if you do all these, you're still got a corner, defensive line, running back, maybe a second running back, your draft class, which is going to be more expensive than it's ever been. The thing that sticks in the back of my head is do the Chiefs try to sell high on a cornerback that may or may not want to play in the slot, that may not want to play in the slot enough to their liking, even though he's one of, if not the best slot corner in football. And if he's going to be a half outside, half inside guy, that would be great, actually, because I don't even know if he got to those splits in 2025. But is there a team willing to pay him as an outside corner? Those are the questions. Like I think that it's a tough thing to navigate. I tend to say, hey, you just drafted a super young, talented cornerback in Trent McDuffie. He was a 21-year-old. You made the right move. You traded up and got him. You secured his talents, and he's a blue chip player. Just keep him. But man, are there sacrifices that have to be made to keep him? And I think it's a very unique, multifaceted, consequential decision to keep or not keep Trent McDuffie, and a lot of things have to be considered, because I think you want to pay him long term. Like, I think the Chiefs want to pay him. They got him you could sign him for, you've got him for his 5th-year deal, and then you've got him for a franchise tag. But again, the franchise tag's pretty penny in 2027. So a big challenge. I'll ask you guys this before we move on: percent chance that you think Trent McDuffie is traded by the Kansas City Chiefs this offseason, Hamilton?
I would put it at like 30%, because as Maddie laid out beautifully, like there's a lot of scenarios in which it does kind of make sense where I could see it. I just personally, you have that blue chip in the building. We get into the old Family Guy situation. The mystery box could be anything. It could even be Trent McDuffie. You have that guy on your roster. Again, especially with the way that this is, with them getting him young, with him getting the second contract, you're going to get him for the entirety of his prime. There are going to be no, fatty years on the end of that contract, most likely. Like whatever you lock him in for, you're getting him in his prime. I still think they find a way to do it, but it's reasonable enough that, I think a 30% chance is fair there that they do make some kind of move again. Especially, you never know how these negotiations are going to go. If he's asking for the world, then you get into that situation where it becomes a lot more likely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're dealing with like sub 20% here that Trent McDuffie actually gets traded. The reason I'm going to go, giving it some real thought, it also sounds like, and we'll have to wait tomorrow to find out, but it sounds like Daniel Jeremiah was hinting at, in his next mock draft, he might also have just a mock trade for Trent McDuffie going to the Dallas Cowboys, which I presume would then be pick 20. That's their second pick in the first round. He didn't, share the whole thing. It was just on his podcast and then passed on to me here. So we'll have to keep an eye out for Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. But it sounds like he's at least like contemplating the fact that other teams might be interested in trading for a corner, and to connect Trent McDuffie's name to that is just interesting, right? And so that's a couple people out there in the national media that are starting to draw like, hey, I wonder if Trent McDuffie is going to be available. Here's a general just spitballing compensation that you could have for it. So just, something to keep your eyes on going forward as we wait, I guess, for free agency to start and then the draft to get going. Is like, hey, what do the national media people seem to expect to happen in this situation?
Hearing that from two different places is a little bit interesting. 33% then. Give me 33. Just 1 out of 3. Just that actual Daniel Jeremiah nugget through. I was gonna say around 30% too. I was kind of thinking around there. Like, I still think it's more likely than not they just keep the blue chip player. There's just so many tough decisions that this team has to make, and they've got to balance all of the things that there's so many things that they're having to take into consideration to make this whole offseason make sense. And what's the theme of this offseason? Is it a rebuild? Is it an entire rebuild? Is it a blow up the old core. What does it look like? It's gonna be an interesting offseason. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see that mock, actually. Now that I think about it.
I think the way it came across in the podcast and they're talking about it was essentially like the Cowboys talking about taking a corner at some point in time in the mock draft. But if they take a different position, I think it kind of came up like they, maybe something like trading pick 20 for Trent McDuffie. And then I guess him and Bucky Brooks talked about the value of Trent McDuffie and said, hey, if you were the Cowboys or the Rams, you would have to be okay trading your second first-round pick for Trent McDuffie. So they were at least having the conversation. Now, I think he prefaced it, according to, Tyler on Twitter, or on X, who has passed this conversation on to me. I haven't quite listened to it yet. He did say that it wasn't inside information, just they were just kind of talking through the concept on
That's just sometimes those national guys presenting concepts have some maybe they're not sourcing it and maybe they're speculating a little bit, but when there's consistent themes and speculation, you got to pay attention a little bit to that too. Matthew McHugh did ask this question: would trading back from 9 to keep McDuffie but gaining picks be a better move than moving on from him to fill the holes on this team? So I'll say off the top, I don't think that trading out of pick 9 really helps the Chiefs keep McDuffie. I don't think that's the move that ultimately kind of helps them keep McDuffie, because you're still going to have to pay. If you're getting 2 top 100 picks, you're now still going to have 2 top 100 picks against the Cavs. So I don't know if it's like the math necessarily is on that, but I trading back certainly a possibility if you are looking to retool this team. It just depends on kind of what you're trying to do with this roster for 2026. Anything else to add, Hamilton?
Yeah, I don't know if trading back moves the needle enough financially there. I will say to extend, if they do extend them the way they work that out, it could save them a bunch of money for this year versus having to pay him that full 5th-year option. There, again, a lot of creative ways to structure those contracts. So there is that to consider too. But yeah, I don't think moving out of that spot is going to necessarily move the needle enough to make a difference one way or the other financially.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think if you're moving back, you're trying to see if somebody wants to sacrifice 2027 draft picks and you are just taking your medicine this year to get better next year and what presumably would be a stronger draft. That's the only avenue where I could see that being a more advantageous avenue in terms of trying to turn over the roster. But realistically, if you're trying to turn over this roster, the most aggressive way, it would be to trade away the player that's also costing money against the cap and returning with draft picks, not just getting more draft picks.
All right, let's move on from that Trent McDuffie conversation. I have a feeling there might be more conversation to be had around that over the next month. There's a lot of shows to fill. But let's talk about the edge rusher position here a little bit. We're kind of doing some free agency previews here of all these positions, just trying to get an idea of, what the landscape looks like for all these positions. And defensive end is one of the hotter positions for conversation when it comes to this team. So I'll ask this question to you, and we're going to operate. I'm going to ask the question based on APY, just because I'll say this. I set the tone. I set the stage for this all the time again. Look, APY is not everything. APY is just a easy way to conversate and communicate about some of these free agent valuations, because the ratios on APY are normally not so outrageous that, there's still going to be substantial guaranteed money tied to it. It's not, most of the time APY / the cash, they're in the ballpark here. I'll ask the question to Hamilton. Do you think that the Chiefs' highest APY investment in free agency in 2026 will be at the defensive end position?
I don't, because it's hard for me to envision. You look at probably the guy who's going to command the most on the open market with where he is in his career right now is Jalen Phillips. Do we agree with that? I know he didn't have the most prolific year, but
probably.
Trey Hendrickson's probably gonna get paid more, right?
I don't know right now.
Oh man.
Okay, well, hold on. If Trey Hendrickson's not getting more, when does he come on down to Kansas City? Let's make that work real quick. Hold on.
Yeah,
32-year-old Trey Hendrickson.
it's going to be close. Yeah,
Yes.
coming off an injury-plagued year.
Okay, look where he's playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fake injuries. He was just trying to get out of there. His tummy was hurting.
That's a good.
Here comes the backup. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be. I think it's going to be close, and I don't think the Chiefs have the space to really add somebody of that caliber. And outside of that, like, who do you feel comfortable investing in from this edge class when you really look at it right now? Caleb Chason had a big breakout year. You feel comfortable paying him significant money?
Nope.
And the rest of it's. Do you bring in one of these vets that might be looking to grab a ring, a Joey Bosa? I don't think Cam Jordan's ever leaving the Saints, but that's another one that you throw out there. Leonard Floyd, like I don't see them. I don't see them investing big in the free agent market there. I know Ken last time we did our solo show, we were looking at some of the potential draft prospects there, and I think if we see them invest big on the edge, I think it's with that 9th overall pick.
So I don't know if they'll spend like big, I don't think they'll make like a big signing for a defensive end. They're not going to pay somebody close to what they're paying George Karlaftis in free agency, right? I don't think they'll go that big, but I still think they might. I think the biggest signing they make this offseason kind of has to be along the defensive line. And whether that's D tackle or the edge position, I don't care which. Looking through the free agents, unless you're going to get into the bidding war that I think John Franklin Myers is going to get to at D tackle, I don't know who else you're going to push into the range that's going to come near. I mean, Odafe Owe had a really great run there with the Chargers down the stretch. What's he looking like going forward? Boye Mafe, a guy that the Chiefs have already been connected to trying to trade for at one point in time. I mean, even Draymond Jones, I understand that he was on the trade market and didn't light it up last year once he got traded to the Ravens, but he still had like a quality year. He still would have been the Chiefs' second best defensive end by far last season, right? It's like, I think there's more than a handful of guys. You can get even to the Arnold Ebiketis, like these guys that have been good working for a second contract that are probably going to cost you. They're going to look at a deal that's going to be similar to what the Chiefs signed Charles Omenihu for initially coming from San Francisco, where a guy was clearly on the rise, but he needed one more short-term contract to really show that he's arrived before the big payday. I think that's the kind of guy that they're going to go after. A person looking to get 1 to 2 more years under their belt of like this positive progression before looking for a big payday. And I think that costs more than the running back they're going to spend on or a safety or any other position, because I don't think they're going to be big spenders anywhere else.
There's so many holes that they have to find competency at so many different spots. But I also think that, I think one of the positions that the Chiefs sign in free agency has to be a multi-year deal. At least one of them. Maybe 2 of them. Like maybe Tyquan Thornton's your receiver on a 2-year deal. But I do think the biggest spend might come out of the edge room. The more I think about it, I think Boye Mafe, the Chiefs being connected to him in that draft rumor is worth paying attention to, in my opinion. And it's a 3-year, $10 million APY type deal, where you're getting a low cap figure in 2026 to help offset and help you pile in some of those 1-year deals that you're trying to fit at the 6 different positions that you need before the draft. I think that one makes sense. I think we might see Kingsley Enagbare. I'm curious what Kingsley Enagbare out of Green Bay gets. He's kind of
stolen valor. I said him on a radio show last week as a guy that hey, this is the guy that I'd keep an eye on if I were Chiefs fans and they didn't want to spend a lot of money. And I was waiting. I was waiting for you to talk about our guys, and then I'm sitting here, and you're like, "Oh no, let me just hijack Maddie's guy from last Thursday."
Maddie, I hope I don't disappoint you too much, but the only time I've listened to you on 810 is the time when we were both accidentally double booked on this show, and we both went on.
Not a team player. A lot of
sorry, you know what?
QB energy. A lot of QB energy over there.
You know what? I did have a question. Oh, sorry.
While we're in the business of stealing Maddie's guys, though, there's a name you threw out there that's interesting to me. Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah.
That's one that he he didn't get a ton of burn in Atlanta, but he flashed, man.
Yeah.
He can make
Flashed at
some
Penn
freaking
State, too.
plays off the edge. I'm honestly surprised, it, you know, he wasn't able to get consistent playing time. I mean, not this past year. Obviously, they invested heavily, on the edges there. But prior to that, because man, he freaking pops and he's explosive. That's somebody I'd be interested in, and I think you can probably get at a value. That's still relatively young in the grand scheme of things, and we haven't really seen fully what he can do. Like that's somebody I could see going somewhere and having a double-digit sack season next year. And if you can get him, at a value because the production, you look at the production last year wasn't there, the playing time wasn't really there. If you can get him at a value, that's one that's super, super intriguing to me.
Maddie, I had a question for you.
Oh, another guy you can steal later?
No, I had a question for you, Maddie.
I have another one.
There's a guy out in Green Bay, Kingsley Enagbare. Is that
Yeah.
Do you think that would make sense as someone the Chiefs could sign in free agency?
Yeah, you know what? I think he would be an interesting guy to bring into Kansas City because he kind of fits the Spags, thresholds. He kind of plays the way the Chiefs like their defensive ends to play. And hey, guess what? Similar to Charles Omenihu, he was on a pretty deep defensive line group these last couple years, and he only flashed here and there. It was a lot of running kind of stunts. It wasn't necessarily like he was ever the focal point of the pass rush, but every now and then you see enough plays like, oh, there's a little something there. I don't think he's going to be great, but he could give you some competency across from George Karlaftis or in a rotation. And I don't think that he ever just got that full freedom to do that in Green Bay. So he's a guy that, if I were you, Kent, I would keep my eye on. And just in case you want another one, because if one guy wasn't enough, Joseph Osai for the Cincinnati Frog Bulls, he finally actually kind of started putting it all together last year a little bit. He looked pretty good in place of Trey Hendrickson. Listen, I don't want to go too long on this because we've been going for a while. Pass rushers, you got to have a role. And if your role is I'm the winner, I'm the guy that gets the two-way, I'm the guy that gets the freedom to win wherever I want, that was Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. That wasn't Joseph Osai. But when he was given that green light, when Hendrickson got hurt, you could see it start to click. So I don't think you could have come into Kansas City and be given the green light over Chris Jones. But if you want somebody else that has that in their bag and they're still trying to round out the rest of their more complimentary game, he is somebody that probably isn't going to cost you $16 million like a Jalen Phillips, but might have that kind of potential, and you might get to catch him again in that bridge contract before he gets big time paid.
Hamilton, do you have any other names that you'd like the Chiefs to take a look at in free agency?
On the edge or just in general?
At the edge.
At the edge. Not top of mind right now. I mean, I honestly really like the names that Maddie threw out there because, again, if you're looking at given the cap situation, it's going to need to be some guys at that caliber that you're taking a little bit of a chance on to get a value. And I think there are a bunch of those guys in this free agency class, which makes it fun. Again, I think Ebiketie, to me, as a pure pass rusher, has the highest upside of that group. As I said, I think he's a guy I could see racking up double-digit sacks. But they're, Osai is the good one, Mafe is the good one. They're guys that are solid edge players on that next tier down. It's just I'm always interested to see what the market's going to be like, right? Because last year we saw it we thought the Chiefs were going to have a lot of really good interior D-line options, and all those guys got broken off and they were left with nothing, which was a huge problem, obviously, as the year played out. But I wonder if that's going to happen. Obviously, edges, and even more of a premium. I wonder how that trickle down is going to go if some of those guys that we think are going to be values now end up getting broken off and it's just a free-for-all and the Chiefs get screwed like they did on the interior last year.
So I'll just throw a couple more names out of just players that I could see. I don't know what the valuations are going to be on these guys, but I could see flyers / low cost investment in. Michael Clemens, I could see New York Jets.
Please, I just want to stop. Yeah, sorry, just being in New York, and,
I get it. It doesn't move me whatsoever.
It's
just don't. Just trust me.
It's one of those. Sorry. It's one of those moves that I could see the Chiefs doing. AJ Epinesa.
Isn't he 31?
Clemens is like, no, he's.
I thought he was old coming out. So
he was old. It feels like he's old, but I think he's still in his 20s. AJ Epinesa, another, and staying in the state of New York. AJ Epinesa, I could see the Chiefs having some level of interest in him as like a big, dense edge. I'm not saying I'm excited about these. I'm just saying like these are players I could see. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka also. I just I could see some of these guys. I don't know what he's going to command. I don't think it would be much either, but like some of these guys I'm curious. Michael Clemens is 29. I could see them taking two defensive ends. Like I wouldn't be stunned to see them take two. Maybe it's one before the draft, then see how the draft shakes out and take one afterwards, but I could see some of these types of players getting added into the fold, especially if the Chiefs are going to be moving on from Mike Dana. So those are just a few more names for you guys out there.
What if they could go to the Houston Cougars and look at Peyton Turner or Logan Hall. I think both are set to be free agents and kind of have like that Spagsy like build where they're a little bit of like interior outside tweeners. Logan Hall might get a decent amount of money though. I don't know where he's going to end up on the list, but I think there's some guys out there that if you really want to sift through the people in the middle tier range, that you might be able to find a guy or two that could come in and play. The thing where you get to when you start talking about Michael Clemens is I don't think you're necessarily clearing whoever the defensive end. You're not necessarily clearing Ashton Gelati / Mike Dana with that signing. And at that point, like, okay, that's fine. But like that can't be our headliner, right? Like that can't be our lead defensive end signing.
I think
you got to go a little higher.
I think there's a world where they're signing two, and I think those Clemens types are like your second signing in that group kind of players. And Igbari and Michael Clemens in the mix now. Wouldn't stun me.
Boy, you just hate speed.
I just
Boy, you just hate speed.
I don't hate speed. I do not. Certainly do not. We didn't have like a ton of things for the rundown, so we threw anything else. I actually had a couple anything else's. Did anybody else have anything else? Because like Maddie, I would be stunned if you didn't.
I don't. I'm good, man. I think we've covered. Okay. Here's the thing. When there's big news for a day, I'm good just with the news of the day. I don't know if we need a whole lot more. Oh, I did have one thing as people debate about Trent McDuffie trade value stuff.
What?
Right. Well, no, people just been talking about Trent McDuffie. I meant to put this in the Trent McDuffie section. So this is just kind of circling back around. No, not a lot of slot corners have gone for a big high price, but we do got to remember Minkah Fitzpatrick was essentially playing slot corner for the Miami Dolphins, and he was traded for a first-round pick. Granted, it was his second year of his rookie contract, but it is worth noting, like, that's probably the last time that you had a slot dominant player traded for a first-round pick, and it was in the middle of a contract. Steelers promptly turned him into a safety and not a slot player. But I think that was the last time where you probably had a slot dominant player done that. Now, McDuffie might not be a slot dominant player. I just think that's how the trade talks are going to circle around. So it's worth throwing that out there.
Did you have anything else? Because I have two anything else's. Hamilton.
Can go for it.
You sure you don't have like a fun little... it's okay. I was just going to give you a chance. All right, we'll speed round this one. Bradley Chubb, released by the Miami Dolphins today. Yay or nay in Kansas City? Hamilton, what do you say?
I mean, if we're getting a Michael Clemens, I would I'd definitely take a shot at Bradley Chubb over.
That's why I'm wearing green today.
It's another one. Yeah. You're a big Michael Clemens guy. This
Huge.
Is
always have been.
Once they sign him, you better get that jersey. I want to see it on the wall behind you for every show. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't excite me at this stage. But I mean, again, it all depends on the price point. Yeah, if we're going, not even joking, but if we're going down to that tier, the Michael Clemens, like, I would bring in a Bradley Chubb, but it's not something that excites me at this point.
Maddie.
Yeah, you know what? That's better than Michael Clemens. I thought Bradley Chubb last year when he came back, like, kind of got healthy again. He could still play a little bit. Like, he's not the same guy, but Bradley Chubb is like the equivalent of the Terrell Suggs or Melvin Ingram signing, to which, like, you didn't sign those guys midseason to be your second best defensive end, but they were pretty clearly your second best defensive end at the time. And so yeah, just kind of what he feels like to me. Maybe you get a discount there, and he's worth like snagging. I could see it.
One more question for you. This was in Bill Barnwell's article as well. And also, I've seen some stuff out there that the New York Giants might be looking to move on from Kayvon Thibodeau. The proposed trade from Bill Barnwell was to the Baltimore Ravens for their 4th-round selection. That would be the Giants receiving the 2026 4th, and the Ravens receiving Kayvon Thibodeau. Hamilton, would you give up the Chiefs' 4th-round selection, which would beat the Ravens, by the way, and wouldn't force John Harbaugh to trade away with the Ravens, and also could help out his buddy Andy? Would you trade the Chiefs' 4th-round selection for Kayvon Thibodeau?
I'm trying to think what the contract situation is right now.
It's his last year. He's got the $15 million deal. You would have to either extend him or just let him ride out that 1-year deal.
See, that's where it gets tricky because he's not at a point where I would really want to extend him. And with the Chiefs cap situation, you're not taking on that.
He may not even want to do an extension right now either, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. But still, that's too big of a cap hit for them to take this year with their situation. So I would probably end up passing. He also has too much speed for you, Cap. So we can pass on him.
Maddie.
The last time the Chiefs traded for an underperforming New York Giant, it went great. So why not try it again, I guess?
Last time they did that, they won a Super Bowl.
That means that
they would have won without Kim.
Kayvon's gonna win a Grammy next. That's what that means.
Oh,
they would have won. Yeah, there was no need for Kadarius Toney to win the Super Bowl. Awesome punt return. No need for him to win the Super Bowl. I mean, like Thibodeau's again better than anybody else they have. Thibodeau at his best is better than George Karlaftis. You don't get him at his best as frequently enough to feel great about it, I guess. Maybe a change of scenery would help. I feel like, how do I say this the right way? I don't know this without saying it. I feel like Kayvon Thibodeau is maybe not the exact type of person that Steve Spagnuolo is going to have playing at his best all the time. That's not a knock on Spags. I think that's more of a knock on the type of player that I think I've seen from Thibodeau going back to Oregon and now with the Giants. I don't know if you're going somewhere where you don't get to be the guy that gets to look the best every single time is where you're going to get the best from him. I don't know if he's a guy that's open to doing the dirty work and just letting what happens for him come his way, I guess is the best way to say it.
So not quite a yes, but also not quite a Tibba no. That is going to do it for this episode of the Casey Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you.
The show's over.
I'm done. I'm out.